The cold wind howled across the ruins of Outpost Delta on the desolate planet Braca 5. Thick ash floated down like snow from the broken skies. The ground beneath was cracked and black, poisoned long ago by war and acid storms. Even the machines had stopped trying to repair themselves. Nothing lived here. Nothing but her. She crouched behind a jagged wall of rusted steel, her eyes scanning the wasteland. They were not soft eyes. They were glowing gold-ringed, almost inhuman. Her skin was deep silver, almost metallic in the dying light. Her fingers were clawed, not from mutation, but from nature. Her name was Lyris, and everyone in the galaxy called her a monster. She didn't argue. Monsters didn't cry at night. Monsters didn't watch the stars and wonder if anyone else ever felt alone. They just survived. Lyris had survived more than most. She was born in the death zones, raised in war tunnels, and forged in the fire of 10,000 battles fought before she even had a name. She was part of a failed experiment by the Felicar Dominion, bred to be a super soldier, then abandoned when the project was deemed unstable. Her creators called her Braca Unit 12. She called herself broken, but broken things still bite. She had lived in silence for 6 years now, alone in this graveyard of war. The only company she had were the echoes of memories she didn't want and the buzz of broken drones still flickering like dying fireflies in the dark. Sometimes she'd rip them apart for parts. Sometimes she talked to them just to hear a voice. Then, on a day like any other, something changed. The sky cracked. Not with thunder, not with lightning. With a ship. Not a Dominion drop pod, not a slaver's crawler. Something smooth, old, battered, slow. A human ship. It screamed as it entered atmosphere, engines flickering like stars struggling to stay alive. It slammed into the ground not far from where she hid, shaking the cracked earth like a wounded beast. Debris flew into the air. Flame danced for a few seconds, then died in the wind. Everything was quiet again. Lyris stared at the smoke rising. In the distance, "No one comes to Braca 5, she whispered. But someone had. She should have turned away. She should have let them die. Anyone stupid enough to land here deserved it. And yet, something in her chest moved. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Curiosity. Maybe even hope? She crept toward the wreckage. The ship had once been beautiful. Now it looked like a crushed beetle on the rocks, torn wings, broken core, fire licking its ribs. She circled it carefully, her long limbs moving like a shadow. Her claws clicked against the stone. That's when she saw him. A human. Alive. Barely. He was slumped against a panel inside the ship, blood on his forehead, breathing shallow. His face was dirt-streaked, his clothes torn. But his eyes were open. And somehow they found hers through the smoke. They didn't widen in fear. They didn't look away. They softened. He smiled. "Hey," he said, like he was greeting an old friend. "You look real." Lyris froze. No one had spoken to her in years. No one had smiled at her. Not since the scientists before the tests. Not since her squad before. They died. This man, he should have screamed. He should have called her a freak. Instead, he reached out a trembling hand. "You're beautiful." The words hit her like a bullet. Her claws flexed. Her breath caught. "You're hallucinating," she snapped. "Maybe," he laughed, coughing hard. "But if this is a dream, don't wake me up." She didn't know what to do. Part of her wanted to run. Another part wanted to end him quickly before this became real. Before she let herself feel. But then, the sky growled again. Not thunder. Ships. Dominion ships. Scanners must have caught the crash. They were coming for him, or maybe for her. Lyris looked at the human. He had passed out. His hand had fallen to his side. The smile still lingered on his lips. She closed her eyes. Damn it. And then she picked him up. He was heavy, warm, fragile. Not like her at all. And yet she felt something strange in her chest. She wasn't alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only monster either. The wind grew sharper as the sky burned above them. 3 Dominion scout ships roared across the clouds like silver knives, their engines howling like wolves on the hunt.
Lyris didn't look up. She didn't need to. She knew that sound.
She had heard it as a child, hiding under the bones of fallen soldiers. She had heard it when her friends were taken. She had heard it just before everything in her life was torn apart. But this time, someone else was with her. The human's body was heavy on her back, but she moved fast. Her legs were long, designed for rough terrain, and her muscles coiled, like springs beneath her armor-plated skin. Her claws dug into the ash and rock, kicking up dust as she leapt between wreckage and stone. Her breath stayed low, steady. Even though her heart beat faster than it had in years, she didn't even know his name, but she wasn't going to let him die. Not like this. Not after he smiled. Behind her, the ship slowed. Scanners swept the ground. Green pulses humming through the dust. They were searching for life signs. She knew the pattern. Left dash, right dash, center dash, ping dash, ping dash, ping dash. She ducked under an old fuel tank just before the next sweep passed overhead. The pulse shimmered inches from her skin. She held her breath. The human twitched. She gritted her teeth. Stop moving, she whispered, not knowing if he could hear her. His head lolled against her shoulder. He groaned softly, but didn't wake. The sweep passed. Lyris exhaled. She waited 5 more seconds, then she ran again. She dove through a collapsed tunnel entrance, her claws catching on the jagged metal. The darkness swallowed them whole. Inside, it was cooler, quieter. The kind of quiet that held secrets. She used to live in these tunnels. She knew the way. After 2 more turns, she found it. A sealed chamber, buried beneath a forgotten silo. She had reinforced it long ago in case something like this ever happened. She slammed the door shut behind her and bolted it tight. Only then did she let the human down. He slid to the floor with a soft thump, still breathing, but barely. She looked at him under the flickering emergency lights. He had brown hair, messy and soaked in blood. His skin was pale, his lips cracked. His body was bruised but not broken. His chest rose and fell like slow waves. He was still alive. Barely. Lyris crouched beside him, unsure what to do. Why did you smile? She asked the silence. His face didn't answer. She reached for a medkit she had scavenged months ago. It was half full, but still usable. She cleaned his wounds, even though her hands trembled. She had done this before, in another life, for someone who didn't make it. This time, she would get it right. As she worked, her thoughts drifted back. To the day the Dominion called her a failure. To the screams of her squad as the serum tore through them. To the mirror they shattered when she looked too human. They made her a weapon. A thing. A ghost wrapped in skin. And still, he had smiled. A beeping sound broke her thoughts. She turned his wrist. A communicator. She hesitated, then tapped the screen. A name flickered on the display. Eli. His name was Eli. Lyris stared at it, then at him. Eli, she said quietly. Why would someone like you come to a place like this? She stood and began pacing. The Dominion wouldn't stop searching. They'd track the ship's crash signal. They'd send scouts. They might even think she was back online, operational. And if they caught her, they'd kill her, or worse, reclaim her. She looked back at Eli. He didn't belong here. He was soft. Kind. Human. And yet, he had walked into a place even machines avoided. Something didn't add up. She reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a small data cube. It was warm. Active. Encrypted. She plugged it into her old terminal, Lines of code streamed across the screen. Coordinates. Records. Maps. Of old Dominion labs. She blinked. This wasn't just a random crash. He was looking for something. Maybe even her. Suddenly, Eli stirred. His eyes fluttered open. She turned quickly. He looked around, dazed. Still here? He whispered. She nodded. Double quotes. Barely, she said. He tried to sit up, winced, gave up. You saved me, he said. Don't thank me. Yet, you're not what they say, he muttered. She frowned. Who's they? He smiled weakly. Everyone who's afraid of monsters. She felt her breath catch. Before she could respond, the outer alarms began to buzz, scanners again. Closer. This time, they had found the tunnel entrance. Time was running out. She stepped to the door. Can you walk? She asked. No, he groaned, but I can try. You'll have to. She turned and offered her hand. He took it. His grip was weak, but steady. My name's Eli. He whispered again. I know, she said. He looked surprised. How? She glanced at the data cube still glowing behind her. You were looking for me, she said. He didn't deny it. Why? She asked. He met her eyes. Because I think you're not a monster. For a moment, Lyris didn't move. Then she nodded once, and the two of them, a weapon and a wanderer, disappeared into the tunnels once more. The Dominion was coming, but they would not be the only ones hunting. The tunnel stretched deep beneath the ruins, long veins of rusted metal and cracked stone. Old lights flickered weakly along the ceilings, casting ghost shadows as Lyris moved silently with Eli leaning against her. Every few steps, his leg dragged, or his breath caught, but he said nothing. He was trying. She noticed that not many would try anything on BRAKK-5. They had escaped the first sweep, but Lyris knew the Dominion well. They never sent just one wave. The real hunters came after, silent, fast, cold. She had seen them erase entire rebel camps without firing a shot. She'd watched them burn her kind for practice, but this time she wasn't going to run forever. She glanced at Eli. His head drooped, sweat sliding down his neck. You're slowing down, she said quietly. So are you, he smiled back. She blinked. Was that a joke? He stumbled again. She caught him under the arm and pulled him forward. We're close, she said. I know a place. How do you know all this? I used to live here. His eyes widened slightly. He didn't ask more. Smart choice. They entered an old chamber filled with shattered machinery. Faded banners hung from the wall. Symbols of the Dominion Science Division, their twisted double helix emblem still visible under the dust. Lyris stepped over broken syringes and shattered monitors as if she had walked this path 1,000 times, because she had. This was where they made her, and others. Dozens. She felt the ghosts rise around her. Not real ones, just the weight of memory. Eli looked around slowly. This is a lab, she finished, before the war. He touched one of the empty tubes. They put you in this? Worse. She sat him gently on a crate and turned to a wall panel. It hissed as it opened, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were weapons, water, old rations. She tossed a ration bar to Eli and pulled out a compact rifle for herself. You're preparing for a fight, he said, chewing weakly. No, she replied. I'm preparing to survive. He looked at her carefully. Lyris, what did they do to you? She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched. They broke me, she said finally. They cut me, injected me, rewired my cells. Tried to make something stronger than a soldier, something that could survive anywhere. I was test 12, the last one. What happened? To the others? She closed the panel. They didn't make it. Eli looked down. I'm sorry. Don't be. They're the lucky ones. He opened his mouth to speak, but something on the console behind them blinked. She turned sharply. Movement. Outside. The hunters had arrived. Not ships this time. Ground units. 2. Life forms. Fast. Armored. Closing in? She grabbed Eli and pulled him deeper into the lab. What's happening? He asked, trying to stay upright. They're tracking us. Can't we hide? Not from them. They reached another chamber, smaller, filled with old equipment. Lyris activated a side panel and a screen blinked to life, showing 2 humanoid figures moving through the ruins outside, silent, glowing eyes scanning everything. Dominion phase hunters. They're not alive, Eli whispered. They're machines. Not fully, she said. They used people once, parts, just enough to make them think like predators. Eli swallowed. We can't fight those. I'm not going to. Then what? She turned toward him. I'm going to make them follow me. He shook his head. You won't make it. Maybe not, she said. But you might. He looked at her with something between fear and admiration. You barely know me. You smiled. He stared at her. That's all it took? He asked. It was more than anyone else ever gave me. She moved toward the door. Wait, he called. Lyris, please don't die. She paused, her hand on the doorframe. You're not the first to say that, she said softly. Then she was gone. Outside, the air was still, thick with ash and silence. Lyris emerged like a ghost, her body low to the ground, moving between cover with the grace of something half feral, half trained. The phase hunters picked up the motion and turned sharply. She smiled. They charged, but Lyris knew these tunnels better than anyone. She ran, leading them through old power chambers and collapsed engineering bays, drawing them farther from Eli with every turn. They moved fast, but not fast enough. Her claws struck metal, triggering a trap she'd built years ago. A collapsing wall of ferrosteel beams came crashing down behind her, sealing off the path. The first hunter was caught. The second leapt through, claws reaching, and then darkness. She didn't remember falling, only the pain. When she opened her eyes again, everything was red. Alarms were screaming. Her side burned. The second hunter was gone, but so was the way back. She reached for her unit. Eli, she whispered. Are you there? Static. Then his voice faint. I'm here. You have to move. Now. I can come get you. No, she snapped. Don't be stupid. Find the lift. Go deeper. I left you a map. But, go. She cut the connection. Alone again, but this time, not by choice. She leaned back against the wall, bleeding and breathing slowly. Outside, the storm picked up. And far away, the human she saved began to move alone in the dark. Eli limped through the dark with one hand pressed against the wall and the other, clutching the dimly glowing map Lyris had left for him. The tunnel stretched on like the throat of some buried creature, pulsing with old power and silence. Every few steps, gust would fall from above, or the lights would flicker and die. And still he moved forward. He was scared. His ribs hurt. His legs barely held him up. And yet, he wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of leaving her behind. You have to move. Now. Her voice still echoed in his ears. But something inside him pushed back. No. Not this time. Humans ran from monsters. That's what the galaxy believed. But he had seen the real monster, and she had saved him. She had fought for him, bled for him. No one ever did that for him. Before. Not on Earth. Not in the void stations. Not even when his research was stolen and his name was erased from the credits of his own work. People like him were meant to disappear. But Lyris didn't let him, and he wouldn't let her disappear either. He stopped walking, took a breath, then turned around. The pain screamed in his body. His instinct screamed louder. Go. Back, don't be stupid. But he kept walking, deeper into the tunnels. Back toward the danger, back toward the one person in this galaxy who didn't look at him like he was weak. Meanwhile, Lyris crawled through broken stone and twisted pipes, her body bleeding from sharp edges and deep bruises. One arm was barely working. The blast from the trap had saved her, but it also buried her. She had stopped trying to move. The pain was too much. Her mind slipped between waking and sleep. And in the haze, she remembered a time before the experiments. Before the claws. Before the war. A time when she was just a girl named Lyris who laughed in the tunnels with other kids. Kids with bright eyes and fast feet. Kids who didn't know what they'd become. They had played hide and seek in events. They had built toy ships from scrap. They had believed someone would come save them. No one came. Except now. A voice cut through the dark. Lyris? Her eyes fluttered open. A light moved through the shadows. Eli? She whispered. His face appeared above her, pale and sweating. What are you doing? She coughed. Getting you out. You were supposed to leave. Yeah, well, he grinned. I don't follow orders well. She tried to sit up, but the pain made her gasp. He knelt beside her, pulled debris off her legs, careful and slow. This is stupid, she said. Weakly, probably. You could die. So could you. She looked at him. His hands were shaking, his body trembling, but he wasn't running. He wasn't afraid of her. I've never met someone like you, she whispered. You've never met a lot of people, he replied. A soft laugh escaped her lips. It hurt. Help me up, she said. Together, slowly, painfully. They stood. The tunnel behind them groaned. We can't stay here, Eli said. She nodded. But before they could move, a sharp clicking sound echoed from behind them. Both froze. Third hunter. Silent. Tracking. Its eyes glowed faint blue in the dark. It had waited. Had followed. Go, she whispered. No. Eli, I'm not leaving you. The hunter stepped forward. Claws extended. Blades humming. Lyris pushed Eli behind her. I can slow it down. No, Eli said. We do it together. He looked around quickly. His eyes landed on an old power relay sparking faintly beside the wall. He ran to it, tore off a cable, sparks flying across the floor. What are you doing? She shouted. These old phase hunters use low-band energy fields for their shields, he said. I read it in a forgotten war log. We can overload them if we ground them. You don't have a weapon. You do. He tossed the sparking cable across the floor. The hunter stepped on it. Lyris understood instantly. She leapt, her claws glowing with built-in plasma charge, and struck just as the overload hit. The room exploded with light. When it faded, the hunter lay in pieces. Smoking. Eli collapsed to the floor. Lyris stood over him, shaking, breathing hard. They had won. Together. She knelt beside him, placed a clawed hand on his chest. You okay? No, he groaned. But that was kind. Of cool. She smiled. A real one. Soft. Strange. Almost human. You don't belong here, she said. Neither do you. You don't understand what I am. No, he whispered. But I want to. They sat together in the quiet ruin, blood mixing with ash, light flickering above them like dying stars. For the first time in years, Lyris felt something that wasn't rage or fear. She felt seen. And she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The air inside the ruined lab was heavy. Dust hung like mist, broken only by the low hum of failing power lines. Lyris and Eli sat in silence for a long while, both catching their breath, both unsure what came next. Outside, the storm had grown. Worse, thunder rumbled deep underground, shaking the old bones of the base. We need to move, Lyris said softly, her voice raw. Eli nodded but didn't stand. You're hurt, he said. I've been worse. She pulled herself to her feet with a low groan, claws scraping the metal wall. Her body was shaking, her side soaked with blood, but she didn't stop. She had survived worse than pain. What scared her now wasn't the wound in her side. It was The warmth in her chest. The human had come back for her. And that meant something. Help me reach the central vault, she said. It's beneath the lab. There's something there you need to see. Together, they walked through the lower corridors, past shattered glass pods and long-dead power cores. The walls were covered in old Dominion markings, test logs, failed subjects, and numbers written in cold ink. What is this place, really? Eli asked. This is where the Dominion made their monsters, Lyris replied. Not just me. As they reached a sealed chamber, Lyris pressed her hand against a hidden panel. The door hissed open. Inside was a room untouched by time. Dim lights flickered above rows of memory cores, thousands of them. Each one was labeled. Each one glowed faintly. These are memories? Eli asked. Records of every subject. She nodded. What they did to us, what they turned us into. He walked slowly between the cores, reading names, numbers, failed. Experiment tags. Why are you showing me this? He asked. Because, she said, you're the only person who's ever looked at me and didn't flinch. You should know what I came from. He turned to her. I already know what you are. And what's that? He smiled again, soft, strong. She looked away. Her claws curled slightly, but before she could speak again, the lights dimmed. Then, died. The room fell into silence. Deep, unnatural silence. Eli's voice dropped to a whisper. What just happened? Lyris stiffened. Something's here. A new sound echoed in the dark. Not metal. Not machines. Breathing. Slow. Wet. Not. From any Dominion file she remembered, she grabbed Eli's hand. Don't move. A shadow moved in. The far corner of the room. It slid along the walls like oil, pulsing with red veins of light. A shape took form. Tall. Twisted. Wearing no armor. Just skin and eyes like molten iron. What is that? Eli whispered. Lyris didn't answer. She had never seen it before, but she knew what it was. Not Dominion. Not machine. Something older. Worse. Double quotes. They kept something here, she murmured. Something even they feared. The creature opened its mouth and let out a sound like 1,000 voices screaming at once. Eli staggered back, covering his ears. Lyris pushed him behind her. Run, she said. I'm not. Don't argue. Go. Find the exit. Follow the green trail lights. What? About you? Just go. The creature moved. Fast. Impossibly fast. Lyris dove, her claws flashing. They scraped against its hide and did nothing. The thing grabbed her and slammed her into the wall. Eli turned, eyes wide, frozen. Go, she shouted, blood in her mouth. He ran. Heart pounding. Lights flashing. Alarms now triggered by proximity sensors. His legs ached, lungs burned, but he followed the faint green lights overhead. He didn't know what that thing was, but it wasn't natural. It wasn't science. It was hate. He reached a security gate and slammed his hand on the panel. Nothing. System locked. His voice broke. Come on. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Slow. Measured. And then another sound. A roar. Lyris. Fighting. Again. She had gotten up. He didn't know how. He didn't know why, but she was still fighting. He slammed his fist against the panel again and again, until the door opened. He fell through it, gasping. Then turned and sealed it. His hand trembled. His chest heaved. But he didn't cry. He just stared at the sealed door and whispered, Please come back. Deep inside the vault, Lyris fought like a storm. Claws slashing. Dodging. Rolling. Bleeding. She wasn't stronger, but she was smarter, and she was fighting for something real now. Not orders, not survival. But for someone who believed she wasn't a monster. For someone who came back. The creature lunged again. This time, she was ready. She triggered the backup core containment field, an ancient trap, meant to kill whatever got out. The creature shrieked as the field snapped around it. Its body twisted, screamed, and then dash vanished. Lyris collapsed. Barely breathing. Smiling. She had won. Not just the fight, but something more. A place in the world. And maybe, just maybe, a reason to keep living. The storm had reached its peak above Braca 5, ripping the clouds into pieces, spilling lightning across the night like fire in the sky. Broken towers swayed in the wind. Dust flew through the air like falling stars. But deep below, in the old Dominion vaults, silence ruled. Lyris lay still. Her body ached, her breath shallow. The trap had worked, barely. Whatever that thing was, it was gone, vaporized, maybe pulled back into whatever nightmare it had come from. But Lyris didn't feel like a victor. She felt like a relic. A forgotten weapon in a forgotten war, until she heard his voice. Lyris? She opened her eyes. A blurry shape moved toward her. He had come back. Again. Eli knelt beside her, wiping dust and blood from her face. "You're alive?" he said, voice cracking. "You're stubborn," she whispered. He laughed. A tired, broken laugh. "You always save me," he said. "I thought maybe it was my turn. You're not strong enough." "You made me strong," she didn't answer. She couldn't. She just let her head fall against his chest and listened to his heart. Soft, steady, human. It calmed something inside her. For a long moment they didn't move. Then she said, "Help me up." He pulled her gently to her feet. She winced, but stood. "The Dominion will come," she said. "That trap sent off energy bursts. They'll know something happened." "Then we leave," he replied. "There's nowhere to go." "Maybe there is." He reached into his jacket and pulled out the data cube again. She stared. "You still have it? It's the reason I came." He handed it to her. "The Dominion tried to erase every trace of your kind," he said. "But they missed this. Someone smuggled out your files. Test logs, escape routes, old communication tunnels that lead off planet. I tracked them here. You came looking for me. I came looking for hope." She looked at him, unsure what to say. "You were never the monster, Lyris," he continued. "You were the warning." "What do you mean?" "You were meant to destroy everything, but you didn't. You waited. You survived. And you saved someone who didn't matter. You matter." He smiled, eyes shining. "Then maybe we both do." She looked down at the data cube. Inside it, coordinates, names, traces of other escaped subjects, other experiments like her. Maybe some still live. Maybe not. But now she had a choice. For the first time. "Can you fly a ship?" she asked. "Not." "Well, that'll have to do." They moved through the ruins, her steps growing steadier with each turn. She knew the paths, knew the exit tunnels. But now, with Eli beside her, it didn't feel like escape. It felt like beginning. As they reached the upper levels, the storm's light filled the sky above. "It's beautiful," Eli whispered. "I never noticed before." "Maybe you didn't have someone to see it with." They stood together at the edge of the broken cliff, looking out across the dead world. She reached for his hand. He didn't flinch. Not even when her claws brushed his skin. "We'll need a ship," she said. "Know a place. We'll need weapons. You are one." She smiled, a sharp smile, but real. As they began the long climb to the surface, Lyris felt something she hadn't felt since before the Dominion gave her a number. Not anger. Not fear. Something small. Warm. Quiet. Hope. "What happens when they find out you helped a monster?" she asked. Eli shrugged. "Then I guess I'll just remind them what humans do best." "And what's that?" He looked at her. "We love impossible things." They reached the surface as the storm began to fade. Dawn touched the edges of BRAKK-5. And somewhere in the distance, a new future waited. The silence in the chamber was deep. Even time seemed to pause. Zura stood still, breathing heavily, her claws still wet with blood, her eyes wide with confusion. The floor beneath her was cracked from the battle, the air filled with smoke and fear. She had expected screams. She had expected the humans to attack. Instead, he smiled. The human Jack was bleeding from his shoulder, his suit torn, but his eyes held no fear, no judgment, just warmth. He stepped forward slowly, holding out his hand. "You're not a monster," he whispered, voice trembling. "You're just someone who was never given a chance." Zura's heart twisted. Her kind had always been feared, always hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy. They were trained to kill, taught that emotion was weakness. But in that moment, she felt something she had never felt before. Shame. And hope. The others watched from behind the safety walls. Generals, politicians, soldiers. Their weapons were still aimed at her, but none dared to fire. They had seen what she could do. They had also seen her stop. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" she asked, voice broken. Jack looked at her like she was just someone, not a beast, not a weapon. "Because I've been called a monster too," he said. "And I know what it's like to be misunderstood." Zura's claws slowly retracted. Her breath steadied. No one had ever seen her before, not like this. Not as a being with pain, with a past, with feelings. She dropped to her knees, not in surrender, but in release. The battle inside her was over. In the days that followed, everything changed. The High Council ordered an emergency summit. News of the incident spread faster than any weapon. The image of Zura, the so-called hybrid terror, kneeling beside a wounded human who smiled at her, was broadcast across hundreds of worlds. It broke through the fear. It forced a question into the minds of every species. What if the real monsters are the ones who never learned to see? Jack's voice echoed through the halls of the Galactic Assembly. "She saved our lives," he said during the broadcast, arm in a sling. "And we tried to cage her. Maybe it's time we rethink who we call enemies." Zura was offered freedom. She could have vanished into the stars. But she instead, she stood before the same council that once feared her and said, "I'm done hiding, not just for me, but for all of us who were taught to hate ourselves." A silence followed. Then, slowly, the room stood. Even. Her oldest enemies rose to their feet, not in fear, but in quiet respect. From that day on, they no longer called her a monster. They called her the Shield. She became a protector not just of humans, but of all species who had ever been labeled, feared, or forgotten. Jack recovered, but he never went back to Earth. He stayed beside Zura, helping bridge peace between worlds that had once sworn to destroy each other. And Zura? She never forgot the moment that changed everything. Not the blast. Not the battle. Not the blood. But the smile. Because sometimes, all it takes is one human heart to remind the galaxy that even monsters can love. And even monsters can heal.